actually hasn't played it this split yet, but it really has shown itself as the premier support in the meta right now. It offers so much, I think, in terms of peel, zone control, obviously has insane combos to get off engages, but we are going to see RA go straight towards the Azir. It's pretty interesting that we've seen RA have some really dynamic and very action-packed early games, but in certain series, like up against LNG, they took it very slow, and it was much more about those like 30-minute team fights where FoFo also pulled out the Azir.
He's going to be showing us that once again. You've also got the Olaf picked up here. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, 11.3. We almost saw the Lilia, but just goes past it. Now, what do you partner up for TT? Because we talk about the Udyr being very early game eccentric and how he can clear fast, get in, just run, stun, done. There's a champion on everyone's lips right now. They're seeing in front of them, but will he get locked in?
I don't know if I really expect that to come out from the likes of Twila. Something along the lines of the Orianna or now this being locked in makes a lot more sense. TT have also been a team that have opted a lot more towards scaling. Of course, we have seen a bit of Corki all over the world, and he's always been a pretty decent answer into the Azir pick in the mid lane, right? You get a free lane, you'll be able to contest prio at certain points, and then later on in these big team fights, you'll be able to pop off.
You've got a Corki who is actually the first pick for the LPL, but you're right, across the world, different regions, we've been seeing it more and more. I will talk more about the build as we get into game, keep our chat informed, but noticing the Gragas here, something that can still be flexed around, is a nice touch to finish off the first phase.
Yeah, we have traditionally seen it more in the top lane for the side of TT. No one on the lineup has played it, so we're not quite sure where that one's going to come out. The thing that I'm looking towards is with top sides being picked up in the first half of the draft phase, we might see some AD carry bans coming out and get a lot more, I'd say, interesting AD carry picks. Some things that still jump to mind is obviously the Xayah is still open, the Aphelios, which I still think is very strong, but we've obviously seen an index into more niche picks like the Tristana recently.
We've also seen things like the Senna, right? The Senna with the Kraken Slayer still there as a prevalent pick across other regions. Just coming away from LCO, the home region lyric, noticing some of the OCE players were picking it up. So we'll see if that comes out for iBoy. He's definitely played it in the past, but let's move forward because Jace gets picked up thinking that, all right, well, Twila or Chelizi could go for the solo lane carry, and TT are just taking away supports, aiming for that bottom lane we mentioned.
And for me, I'm looking if RA does want to ban something like the Gnar here. Of course, we do still have that Gragas flex. We do expect it to go in the top lane, but if they are trying to ban out just decent champions into the Aatrox, the Gnar would be the other one to come to mind. But instead, they're going to pivot. They're going to ban the Xayah, which is another massive priority pick on this patch. And just in general, I feel like bot lane feels so impactful on this patch when we're talking about champions like Kai'Sa, Samira, Xayah, and now Rel. Rel being that really S tier support that is now taken off the table. It leaves us with the Leon and Alistar. We're probably just going to see a trade among those supports.
Leyan most played here for Hung if he chooses to pick it up. You're already mentioning the 80 carry zone. Let's see if Rare Adam put the priority there first. Without the Thresh, normally we don't even see the Aphelios as a consideration. 5 seconds left to go. Maybe the carry threat. And now you got a lot of scaling on the side of Rare Adam.
And it gives you a really dynamic bot lane, right? A lot of all-in potential coming out from this Tristana. We still have both supports that we mentioned open, the Leona and the Alistar, so potentially some level 2 shenanigans. Now for where TT are gonna go, it's gonna be, it looks like they really want to outrange RA's comp with the fact that they already have the Corki and the Gragas. So maybe going with something along the lines of, really the only thing that comes to mind is the Aphelios, but as you mentioned, we don't really see Aphelios paired without the Thresh. So maybe going this route is what would be good. Take something like the Jhin or the Senna. You still provide either long range engage with your ultimate or just long range autos coming out from the Senna, but this is weird.
Short range.
Yeah, I don't know if I entirely agree with this pick. So they want to go 2v2 headfirst into that Tristana pick. Lucian does extremely well in the early laning phase, but it doesn't really fit with the first 4 picks of your comp that you've all in with.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be something that Sam D is going to have to roll with, otherwise if he falls behind. Azir, Tristana, the range builds up. Remember, Tristana through levels will, of course, outrange the Lucian as one can expect. You've got the Alistar disengage as well, so it does feel like Rare Adam's composition is pretty stock standard and has a lot of windows and a lot of options.
Yeah, it definitely has multiple ways to play out the game, right? It does fine getting up close and personal with things like the Alistar, Olaf, and Aatrox. It can keep you at arm's length. The big question mark for me is TT. I really don't understand the Lucian pick. I get it. They're trying to play out through the spot lane advantage. Even Gragas is very decent in the laning phase. There's a lot of tools available to him between poking with his Q, engage with the E, you then all in with the Lucian, but you are setting up so well with, hey, we have this Corki, which can outrange the Azir. We have the Gnar as well, who can provide that boomerang, can also provide peel and engage when he gets that Mega Gnar for him. So I would have definitely much preferred to see something along the lines of the Jhin or the Senna.
You talked about the range there to add on in, and now that Lucian kind of disconfigures a little bit. We'll talk more about how these compositions interact, because the Udyr was that first pick priority to take away from Leyan. And for Xiaopeng, it's going to be a lot of the onus on this early game for him, going up into the Olaf, a matchup that we've seen that the Udyr kind of likes. You know, you think about the Ragnarok interaction, but apart from that, the early burst damage, Udyr's dueling potential, even with Phoenix Tiger stance, the way he can clear and get active in the map. So, Lyric, as we run into this one, remember that TT towards bottom 2 and 5. Rare Adam on a 3-win streak. And that's what's so exciting about this team, is that Rare Adam, I think I mentioned in my power rankings, I was like, this team looks like it could be a summer team. They've got a lot of development there. FoFo's good. You know, we've got jungle options, but Rare Adam, better than expected, sooner than expected. And RA, a win here against TT would make that into 4 wins in a row and would put this team on the tip of our tongues, the teeth and the lips. As we move into this one, I thought I'd throw that one in there. So it's good to have you back on the cast. Good to be back on the LPL, ladies and gentlemen, as we've moved places once again. Lyric and I may not be together, but we're here with our audience. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Welcome back to the LPL. It is a Wednesday. It is 5:20 p.m. And that means it's time for some good old League of Legends. And TT on blue. And we already talked about this from Xiaopeng. But Lyric, walk me through a little bit more as we see the fan. Nothing invading, nothing constant. We do have a Corki for the first time in the LPL, starting with Corrupting Potion and going for Fleet in the lane.
Corki is going to obviously scale up later in the game. Against Azir, he still will get shoved in early. We also see FoFo taking a more aggressive option coming out with the Arcane comment, so he does want to opt into these trades. So RA should have mid-prio at least very early on. But the thing is, mid-prio I don't think matters too much in this game. For TT, it's all about bot lane, and I think that's what it's going to mean for the game overall. If SamD and Teeen can get ahead and push their advantage, that's what TT's comp is all based around. If that doesn't happen, if they lose 2v2, if they lose out on a counter gank, if iBoy and Hunk can get ahead, I think this game is just all RA. We've already highlighted very good in team fights. They have some opportunities to play with either disengage or going in first. They have range advantage. They do find contesting mid-wave. I just really like what RA has to where TT's comp can definitely work. The question is, can SamD and Teeen get the advantages they need?
I just love the spacing, right? Emperor's Divide. You've got the Buster Shot, the ultimate from iBoy. Hunk can bop away as well. Cube and Leyan can play interference.
There you go.
A lot of disengage. There you go. Hunk's already shown us, but a good body slam from Teeen to follow up. But Hunk does have sustain in this lane, so nothing yet until we see more trading. Ignite on Teeen crucially as well. So an aggressive Gragas lane instead of something like the Exhaust. And I know our chat might be asleep because of the mid lane matchup. Going back to Corki and Azir, no one likes to see it. But Lyric's just outlined it really nicely. Look at SamD and Teeen, how they can get ahead in this lane, and how jungle interference makes its play. Because right now, Xiaopeng doing a topside clear to bottom will be set up for the bottom side Scuttle Crab as well, with the lane priority set up by SamD and Teeen.
It's even more unfortunate for RA just based on the champions they have, right? Alistar is not a champion at level 1. You really can't do anything. That's why we saw RA have to just give up the wave and accept SamD and Teen's pressure. But I like that you highlight the potential bot side Scuttle we're going to come out. We could also see maybe them going for some wards. We do still see that SamD will still have his ward available. And actually, they're going to go for it right now. So going to get some potential information when Leyan does go for his next recall.
And at least spot that the camps have been taken. So they know it's a blue side start. They know that Leyan's top side, the ward put down by Chelizi will confirm the same. Leyan can't run in. He can't find anything in that gank because Chelizi's just going to pay the respect and walk back. So Scuttle for Scuttle, while bottom side continues to be hefty as iBoy and Hung try to move up to the lane to pick up some CS and make sure this deficit doesn't continue to grow.
I also like you highlighted earlier on that, you know, there is some sustain coming out from RA's bot lane, even if it is only a bit with the Alistar, even though we're not quite seeing it yet. But TT's doesn't have that, only the Gragas does, so we can't see a lot of these 50-50 trades go in favor of RA, or again, it's just going to snowball exponentially in RA's favor as time goes on. But as of right now, 10 CS lead for the likes of Lucian and Gragas.
Yep.
We see Corki straight up chilling in this lane. Sure, he's losing out on CS, but this is what you expect. Probably going to back for a tier at some point within the next 2 minutes. And then top lane is just even. So right now, I'd say RA are in a good spot, but at the same time, we see Teeen already looking for some action.
Super proactive, want to get the flash out, but the shifting stands are still available for FoFo. Waiting for the angle. Teeen has flashed himself with the ignite. There's a lot of kill threat, but again, all about positioners. Meanwhile, on the top side, Chelizi just butts heads with Cube, and that's a nice trade considering that for TT, another lane will just add that cherry on top if it continues.
And now I really liked how Teeen used his tempo with the recall going mid. With Xiaopeng now having fulfilled half of his full clear already, I wouldn't be surprised to see TT just pick up this Mountain Drake that's spawning in 15 seconds. And Leyan probably going to look for a cross-map play and set Chelizi behind.
As Leyan goes up to the top side, look at the position here, Lyric. Chelizi's too far out. The chains don't pull him back, but Chelizi needs to move up the wave in such a great position. While meanwhile on the bottom side, Xiaopeng wants to pop down onto iBoy. He has flash available, but Hung saves the day. Meanwhile, onto Chelizi, it's first blood for Rare Adam, and bottom lane survives.
Really interesting because Chelizi got away from that initial Infernal Chain, like you pointed out. He definitely should have been able to back off. I wonder if he was just hovering around that brush. Obviously didn't know that Leyan was there. He didn't have any vision in topside river. But with where Xiaopeng was on the map, and with even Twila hovering around that bottom side river, you should know that he was topside, but Leyan popped the ghost. Maybe even with dodging that Infernal Chain, it just wasn't enough for Chelizi to make it out.
Give the first kill over to Leyan. Olaf with a lead. Feels very good as FoFo forces out the flash. That was a quick Emperor's Divide and shifting sands in. FoFo asserting lane dominance himself.
I really like it too. He doesn't have to even burn a flash himself, so he's still going to be incredibly safe, to where if we can now see RA putting more pressure towards this mid lane, it's going to be extremely tough. We are going to get a replay. Oh, okay, so he does stay around. He didn't know Leyan was here, and yeah, he just ultimately gets punished for it. I guess it makes sense. I guess at this point, we hadn't seen that Xiaopeng was in the bottom side river, so they don't really know where Leyan is, but they do know that he full cleared towards top side, so if they're tracking timers effectively, they would know he should be around there once again.
You give that first blood over, no trade in the bottom side, and I didn't see how iBoy and Hung backed away, but it looks like they were able to absorb the wave and not lose too much against Sam D and Teeen. As this top side, this is going to be Chelizi going forward into Gnar. Doesn't really work out, and Xiaopeng spotted on a ward, so Cube pays the respect.
Cube has just been a solid rock all split, right? Even in 2020, where I do think he was a bit below par, he was still never necessarily bad. He knows how to hold his own in the 1v1, pretty decent laner, and he's doing that once again here. We even seen the bot lane going to the opposite side, that iBoy and Hung have caught up in terms of CS, so actually RA are the ones with a gold advantage after that first kill as well.
Yeah.
So we are not on a good track so far for TT there.
No, when you talked about the composition, and I know you didn't like TT at heart because it relies on that condition of bottom lane getting ahead, then it does feel like there's a lot going right here for the early game of RA. The team that we set up as the better off, and FoFo's pushing in once again, almost to a turret plating. Twila's getting bullied out, and this is a lost chapter on FoFo, who got that lane advantage forcing the flash before.
Yeah, Twila's getting absolutely spanked by FoFo here, not only in terms of the plate, obviously got the flash before, will have a bit of a CS advantage once he goes back to catch that wave after picking up the blue buff. They now know Xiaopeng's here as well, so we're not going to see any action in the bot side, and heck, RA's bot lane has pile. They can even look to recall and start making their way up towards that Herald, maybe even just send Hung there right now.
You set yourself up for success, because Hung, if he starts moving around with the early back, you can see he'll be there near FoFo. FoFo has his flash advantage, as you already realized, from Twila. And note that Leyan with Ghost has the chase down ability too, so Chelizi with no teleport. Cube has his in case he needs to use it, and we've got a lot of summoners on the board to take note of as Xiaopeng's heading directly there, but Leyan behind him on the red buff, just doing his clear meanwhile.
So we're not going to see RA use their tempo to go for that Herald play. The good thing about it was, especially with Sam D just hitting 6, if you leave that Tristana alone in that 1v2 lane, I do think he would get dove by Sam D and Teeen. They're going to opt out of it. They still know that they have the superior scaling. And even in terms of lanes, all of their lanes are doing fine. So it's actually going to be really hard for TT to find a window to effectively drop down this Rift Herald. But still, it will be a nice bit of gold injection once TT uses one.
The Xiaopeng picks it up as well. It will just go back to farming out. Well, Leyan spots it out now. They've got a bit of information. Excuse me, as iBoy and Hung has to be careful. That's a flash onto Hung. Explosive cast gets the Alistar. The Pulverize to save the day, but the Ignite down. Sam D, the culling blocked iBoy. That was a clutch ultimate, and he saves his support.
You called it Hysterics when we came in. RA have so many ways to just bop TT away, and TT aren't able to do anything. Still, the emote comes out. They were able to get one summoner at the cost of 2, so still in favor of RA.
Every time being a Lucian in this game, I think TT are going to regret it. Almost a steal there from Leyan, but an early smite means that Xiaopeng will take it away. Trying to use that aggression that was held by the bottom lane, but, you know, a lane that we wanted to see elevated, that we wanted to see Sam D take control of. That's the second time where the disengage has saved the day. They haven't missed too much farm, and iBoy is just carefully planning along. He's got the pickaxe against the Noon Quiver, but the lane's still going well enough that you say RA are really showing us that gold advantage means something this early on.
I also like it, the bot side control we've seen come out from RA. You look at the bot side river completely flooded with wards. They have TP advantage on Cube. So I definitely think this should be a Drake for RA coming in 20 seconds. There really isn't too much that TT can do about it. FoFo still has prio in the mid lane. Also, iBoy coming off a back, so he's even in terms of items with Sam D. And everything is just setting up for this for Rare Adam.
I just love that teleport advantage, right, for Cube. Chelizi's still off of it as World End is going to be used. He's at half health. Where's the healing? He has the plated steel caps. Infernal Chains almost to find Chelizi to pull him back in. Dragon's now up. There's no World Ender, and teleport's still the advantage. So we'll see how this is played out by RA and if it started straight away.
That was a really interesting trade coming out. Cube definitely didn't have any kill threat onto Chelizi. Not sure if he's just trying to chunk him out, but ooh, TP already coming in for Twila.
Only Twila. He doesn't have the package in hand, though, as Earthrider Corki into the mix. Rocket Jump on top of him, and Valkyrie, I'm not sure if it was already used, but he takes a heavy chunk as Dragon resets. RA in an awkward position. Teeen ready to engage himself. A low health bar for Leyan as Twila is poking him down. With the Manamune, they get Prio, they take the Dragon, and now onto Hung, the Pulverize there, the explosive cast. Sam D over the wall with the Relentless Pursuit, culling to land true. And there's the first kill of the game, and the Dragon over to TT.
Right when RA started that Dragon, Cube teleported back to his top lane turret after losing HP from the trade that he forced. So RA paying for their own consequences. TT gonna get such a massive swing off this. They're already on their way to Soul Point. Wait out that 4 minutes, getting a big cash injection into their bot lane as well. This is gonna create another pressure point to play from as well, and I definitely think TT's draft is a lot better in side lanes. All three champions, Corki, Gnar, and Lucian, will do fine in that side lane, so TT at least starting to find some of the pressure they need to pull out a win with this draft.
This is a really good driving point. You know, Sam D was not ahead in this lane. He was even at best, and now suddenly with the kill going over, the first turret blood shared most of the gold with this 80 carry of TT, and he's going to find himself in a really good position. Might even been up to that early mythic. Has himself the pickaxe and the Noon Quiver, but hasn't backed yet. Will absorb the wave and we'll watch his item pathing as we go, as Hung and iBoy get a bit of a push themselves, but nothing compares to that early turret gold for an 80 carry that we constantly mention was a good point for TT to get this game rolling.
That's the thing. We just saw them take another plane bot lane. FoFo, I think, only needs 1 or 2 autos from what we last saw mid lane to get a plate himself, so they're still even in gold, even despite that last play happening. So it's not dire for RA. I just think that last Dragon should have been theirs, and TT are very lucky that RA fumbled, and it's keeping this match competitive, which is why we highlighted at the start of the day, right? Despite RA being the clear favorite in this matchup, they definitely aren't some unstoppable gods that, you know, some of our lower tier teams can't take wins off of.
That's right, they're on a win streak, but still a team that's running 4-3 right now in the LPL. And as RA, even in gold, as you mentioned, I want to bring it back to the point of that turret being down and what changes for the map of TT. You said there are 3 good side laners here with escapes, with the ability to push and disengage. We've got Sam D with a Kraken Slayer now too, so you leave your AD carry in the bottom lane. How does the map change for TT overall?
For TT, they want to keep it the same right now because you drafted all three of your lanes into what RA showed, right? You took the Gnar into the Aatrox, you took the Corki into the Azir, you took the Lucian into the Tristana. So as of now, they are still just looking to match RA in these set lanes, and they want to take advantage of those winning lane matchups that they should be starting to have. I think especially in the mid lane where we're going to start seeing this Corki come online. He already has the mirror mana, so TT are fine with just the way the game is, and I like that they're playing out with bot lane pressure.
Twila's wave clear getting ever so fast. He'll be backing now. I'll be curious to see what comes up next. Remember, in the LPL, we haven't seen the Corkis, but over in other regions, of course, mirror mana has been the core. Lyric, I'm not sure on the rest of the build. I will do a bit of research, but of course, we see the Sork shoes as per the Corki conversion. If anyone hasn't played Corki, I would say open the game, have a bit of a look at that 80 to 20% ratio for the AD conversion. Xiaopeng, hello, meets in with Hung. That's an angry Viking, but Bear runs, even with a level disadvantage, and he doesn't really care.
And, oh, iBoy going in.
Does he have enough damage? With Kraken Slayer, he gets the true shot and the explosive charge, but package was in hand. iBoy disengages him, waiting for the burn to disappear. FoFo runs on in, the flash burn, and there's the Emperor's Divide. Shuffles away, and FoFo lives. Nice save of the day.
You know, you would think it was a bait coming out from iBoy, but I definitely like the way you put it. I don't think it was a bait coming out from iBoy. He tries to jump in. He gets caught off guard. Luckily, FoFo is watching, goes down to save him. And now we're going to see RA pick up a kill, but at least nice cross map coming out from TT to pick up this Herald. We do see pings coming out on the top side of the map, so maybe going to drop that down for the Gnar and then open up another avenue, another pressure point on the map.
I like Leyan being here, clearing the wave, maybe giving you a bit of time, but it might not matter if Teen gets caught out. There's the headbutt pulverize into the World Ender. Cube, is he going to follow up? He's got flash and he hits it down, but the explosive cast puts him into a corner. Xiaopeng, run, stun, and now I'm done. He'll save his support, and this game so far, Lyric, is about one man saving the other.
And we do see from that play, now TT have to back off, so nice counterplay coming out from RA to make sure that TT can't go for that play. But going back to before we said about the Corki build, surprisingly, what we've been seeing is a lot of Immortal Shield Bow. We need to remember it's been buffed this patch, gained 5 AD and 5% attack speed. So typically it's mirror mana into Shield Bow into Rapid Fire Cannon. So have a lot of sustain, have a lot of attack speed, a lot more about getting those autos off and providing a source of DPS in these fights.
Picked up, the Lost Chapter in hand. RA are now going to be starting the Dragon once again, but this time around, it does feel a lot safer with the priority for TT just to push mid with the Herald they picked up before.
I mean, this should just be free. Oh, though, with FoFo now here, honestly, RA can probably just look for this engage. You even have the Emperor's Divide up, but instead not going to opt in for it. Maybe it's because they didn't have information on where Corki is on the map, but once again, RA are the ones with TP advantage. And I actually don't think it's too big of a deal if you end up losing that topside turret, because TT could have made this play all along where they just use their bot lane prio to rotate towards mid and then all go topside.
It's 17 minutes and the gold still even further to the scaling discussion and how TT play this comp out the later the game goes. Cube even clears that, so next wave has to come in to take down this blow in the wind turret that you always refer to. And RA are prioritizing their pressure over this topside to make a bit of an engage or push TT from overextending.
And interestingly, items are very even across the map, so fight's going to be very close.
Xiaopeng runs away once again. Here we go. The turbo chem take, and Udyr has water walking. Who knew?
And TT are just going to get away, but problem is, like we hit on, we want to see them doing more with this Lucian. One thing they've done well is at least they've been rotating with the prio, right? We've seen them numerous times rotating their bot lane, linking up with Udyr and putting a bit of pressure towards mid, putting a bit of pressure in the enemy jungle, but they're still not really finding anything. Despite the fact that they have a one turret lead, that's like neutral gold that you expect RA to be able to get back at some point.
Yeah. You know, that mid lane turret still stands, the top lane turret still stands, and a lot of standing gold if one play goes bad or goes south here for TT. And the fact that gold's even, you know, let's remind our audience again, we have a Tristana, we have an Azir, the disengage I mentioned before, but the way the comps interact with this Lucian, crucially, and other carries on the team, I still feel it's good for RA keeping this pace and just clearing out waves, absorbing more farm for FoFo, who's almost towards 2 items as well.
But now we're starting to see TT go into this bit of 1-3-1 formation, right? Gnar in a side lane, Corki in a side lane, Lucian playing around mid. So the question is going to be, can TT pull them apart, and can they win a lot of these isolated trades? They do have some of their carries a bit ahead. If they can do that, maybe they can turn that into a Baron. They have a Corki, they have a Lucian, they have a very fast Baron themselves. But you hit on it, Azir Tristana. Extremely fast Baron. We could see some sort of cheesy plays coming out later on. And as of now, heck, we're seeing the Corki get zoned off the tower and RA just be able to take advantage.
Paying respect while Sam D and T are in the mid lane. Leyan, note that still has the Ragnarok, so Explosive Cast or the Bear Slap won't do anything. And Cube even grouping up, knowing that his wave is so far pushed. TT can't push in any further, and this is also good vision control by Rare Atom to spot out any rotation.
And I also like how they're protecting their wards, right? We see, ooh.
Oh, he gets the Killing Smite. Ragnarok there as well. There's a headbutt pulverize. You ain't running anywhere this time. As Teeen wants to body slam away from existence, and that's a pick for Rare Atom. No Baron up to make a cheeky play, but an overstep from Xiaopeng.
And it goes back to the fact that RA are defending their vision. They have defensive wards in their top side jungle. They know the clear play from TT is going to be, they push out mid with the Lucian, they hover up towards the top side jungle, they set down vision, and they start making their way towards RA's top lane turret. Again, very telegraphed play. RA spots it out. They have Leyan and Hung come from around the red buff. And just a very nice pick coming out from RA. RA knows, hey, we don't necessarily need to be the one that's making a lot of these offensive moves. We can just punish the mistakes that are coming out from TT.
That's why RA at the moment, you know, looking like that playoff team, right? The smarter, the big 5-head team. And RA, what we saw, you know, even against the LNG win, I think, was just more confidence in punishing some mistakes, right? I know it's a very different team, LNG versus TT, but here against TT, showing more, what's the word? Not patience, but virtue, love, connection. Connection with the game. I just kind of went through the dictionary in my head.
What are we? I mean, let's go with love. TT are showing us the power of love. The love of not forcing fights and forcing kills. The love of just taking these turrets and then doing nothing.
Yeah, okay. Well, always good to have love. There you go. There's the top one down. But RA still with the 1,000 gold lead here at 21 minutes into the game. FoFo dealing a bit of a chunk now that he's got the mythic item. He's an item and a half ahead of Twila right now. Note that there's a 242 CS Azir at 21 minutes. Now, it's not a do and be rise hack, but it's still a hefty amount of CS that FoFo has maintained, and it has a 2-level lead on top of Twila as well.
But now, hey, Dragon up in 15 seconds. We're getting to the point where both teams are going to have to start contesting for these. RA already having the better position in River. TT doesn't really have a great way to engage either. Chelizi nowhere close to Gnar.
Makes the engage happen, though. Chelizi gets burnt down. No Mega and no life. Lol. Twila running away with package. Cube stands in it, but that's not who you want as culling comes through. Dragon's gone, folks. TT will not be picking this one up as they're going to push mid instead. But RA with the Infernal Dragon feeling good with 2 in the stack. And now they can move in and punish Xiaopeng. He's gone for the turret himself. Inner just about to drop with one more hit. It's on a lifeline, folks. And the minions can't clear it away. And now RA with the numbers advantage is going to push mid themselves.
And we just saw another aspect of TT's comp having a bit of problems is the fact that you don't have anyone who can face check on this comp from behind, but Xiaopeng and Teeen want to go in.
Peekaboo, they stayed at the turret with no help. FoFo disengages it. There's the rocket jump away. Heal from iBoy, but Xiaopeng chases this. There's the buster shot, and Xiaopeng will no longer follow. And a close call here from iBoy and FoFo using pretty much everything to get out.
The bops are everywhere, Hysterics. We see a beautiful flash coming out from FoFo, bops him away with his ultimate. Once again, good rocket jump, good flash from iBoy, bops him away as well with his ultimate. But going back to my last point, when you're behind on TT's comp, you don't have a great way to face check vision. Unless Gnar's Mega, he's not going to be able to walk in. Gragas as well is not that innately tanky. Gragas is a very squishy champion for, you know, being a champion that does build tank, and he can't just arbitrarily walk into the river. All you can really do is throw out some Corki rockets, see if you hit anyone and can spot them out, but realistically, RA can just ignore that damage. So TT need to be ahead to get on an objective first, so they don't need to face check.
Otherwise, be in those side lanes and try and get that trade-off that we talked about with 3 strong side laners, but again, you know, we've already mentioned the position that RA are in here. 1,000 gold still in the lead. The double Infernal stacking up now as well. And we're going on to 3 items for the main carries of RA. Note the Verdant Barrier. That has been changed, of course, now with minion kills, much like Zhonya's Hourglass weird cousin. Verdant Barrier being a very good item, and Banshee's Veil just a good overall item, especially against the Corki with the AP damage in tow.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Verdant or Verdant. I'm going to call it Verdant. Verdant Barrier,
Verdant
insane.
sounds like Savant. You know?
Verdant sounds much better. I agree with that. But I think it's an insane item. It also got reduced in price as well, so it's only 1,000 gold now. Just a very valuable item if you are dealing with numerous magic damage threats. Not too much magic damage coming out from the side of TT, though you did obviously mention the interaction with Corki earlier. But also interesting to see that we see the Corki going for the Essence Reaver second, so not even going for the Mythic, going for that Spellblade passive as well as the mana return.
Yeah, Essence Reaver. This is kind of something we've seen with, not Gangplanks with the Manamune, right? But we've seen champions like Gangplank who will not go Mythic till 3rd or 4th item, where they just look at how strong Essence Reaver is right now, especially on a champion like Corki, where 2 items in, we've got a Corki who's still doing a lot of damage. Expect to see that Mythic as a potential 3rd item. And
the thing that this says to me, right, is that he's not trying to play that up close and personal Corki that we've been seeing some other regions do a bit of with the Immortal Shield Bow. It's a lot about rocket, weave and auto, rocket, weave and auto, rocket, weave and auto. The problem is, I'm not sure if you're ever going to be able to weave autos against the Tristana and the Azir. And at the same time, if you were going to play the style of playing back and playing based off your abilities and your cooldowns, then again, I feel like their draft is a bit awkward.
You can't play with another AD carry, right? You can't position because Sam D's going to be in the fray and Twila might be on his own. And it's going to be a hard game for Twila, especially with what we've seen already. RA, for the time being, though, we're just kind of keeping stock because they're pushing into River. They're maintaining that vision line. Earlier, you did talk about how they are defensive of their vision. We've seen that pretty much the whole game onwards, and RA are not willing to give up this mid line that they've created through the River.
And I think that's a very telling fundamental of a pretty strong team. I do think RA does set the bar for, like, hey, we you know, like, we're at least a 5 out of 10 in numerous areas, and that's why I think RA have been pretty consistent at picking up a lot of these recent wins. And this is definitely one of the most interesting aspects of it, especially when you think about, you know, you wonder who the shot caller for RA is when you do have a lot of these younger players, or I don't even want to say B players, but players who weren't really stars of their teams, right? Cube was never a star. Hung, very fresh face. Leyan was a bit of a rising star, but wasn't one himself. And then FoFo was a big fish in a small pond, really just leaving iBoy. But I'm going to stop as TT are going for the cheese that we talked about.
And speaking of, this Baron could be everything to make these stars if RA can find a steal. It's going down super fast as well. Leyan needs a hightail and he's only got the Ghost running on in. Steal not there, it's secured by Twila. But now for RA, the fight not looking too good either as the package lines down, but iBoy's already out of there. Xiaopeng trying to chase the Buster Shot, disengages, but Hung with the headbutt pulverized. The follow through from Cube. The knockup's great, but the damage needs to come through. iBoy's already out of the fight. FoFo compensating for now. Chelizi out of the Mega Gnar, and RA lose their support. Teeen very low, and the rest of TT as well. It's a numbers advantage, but the fact is, health not there.
And that's what happens when you play up against double AD carry with the Udyr there as well, as iBoy tries to go in. I'm surprised TT are actually posturing for this. Chelizi is full HP.
Leyan has smite, and he has a level advantage. Xiaopeng just walks on in, and there's the burst down. It's secured. Xiaopeng moves the soul point, and Leyan's still there, but FoFo's trying to poke them down. TT aren't getting punished for this, Lyric, as Twilight maybe he does because he's too far forward. Undertow doesn't connect. Phosphorus Bomb as he flashes away. And Leyan will not connect. Another one even goes into the wall. And RA just kind of gave that away and didn't find anything.
To be fair, that was really good zoning coming out from Chelizi because FoFo and iBoy really couldn't walk forward. You look at Chelizi's Rage Gnar now, he did just turn Mega. He was on the cusp of turning Mega when that Dragon fight was breaking out. I just love that TT went for the cheese. They realized, hey, RA are spread out across the map. We have a very fast Baron. Let's go for this. By the time like 3 members get there, TT finish the Baron and are able to get some damage off, as we're going to see here. And you look, not everyone's here. The Alistar still isn't here on the map. FoFo's only just getting into position, and Olaf is already chunked extremely low. Cube is chunked extremely low. And now TT not only get the Baron, but are going to be given 3 free picks, despite a really beautiful headbutt pulverized from Hung.
You know what I like here is what you talked about with the build from Twila before, and what he did with the package. He lines up his territory and then he plays behind it. Really good at positioning and pushing away RA from engaging further and crossing that deadly bridge that... What's the castle in Shrek, Eric? You know, the big fire, you know, where Fiona is? Whatever's going on there.
Who knows the name of the castle in Shrek?
That was it, right? You know, Donkey's not going to cross it, man. Not without Shrek. And I think Shrek at that point was iBoy, and he decided to go the other way. So at this point for RA, a fight not won, a dragon not taken, and a sole point that they're not on. It is in Earth, Wind, and Fire, actually, for the side of TT. And I know, you know, Trevor always gets to make those jokes in the LEC, but here in the LPL, I am the true disco lover. I actually know the song Boney M. Rasputin as is actually one of the best songs in this world, so would recommend anyone to check it out. On point though, let's talk about the Baron that's being used here by TT to get that inner turret. Ragnarok even burnt with the explosive cask, and RA losing objectives, and for the first time in this game, it feels like actually down by 1,000 gold.
Still, very competitive game. TT should be able to pick up at least another turret in the bottom side of the map as they are doing now, but the fact that gold remains close, that dragons also remain close, I still think this is anyone's fight. If RA can just wait out this Mega Gnar timing, we don't have a package on Corki. This is still very much a team fight that RA can win.
Leyan even being aggressive. He's confident that he can do so, walks into the brush and just kind of expecting something to happen, even without the Ragnarok. And for RA, they've fended off a lot of the aggression of TT after that turret goes down. And Cube just going to absorb the farm. So that's the push. That's the Baron play. I didn't get to see what the Baron buff was, but I believe, actually, you guys can't see, but I can see it. It's 3,211. That's good for TT. Considering that this game didn't look too great moments ago, TT have brought it back to a more than even point. And a point where they can start building towards these 3 items with the gold they just picked up.
And I mean, the thing is, right, when you're on Soul Point, when we have an Infernal Soul, you know that RA is going to fight it. And we're going to be at a point where that timers might even be long enough to where you could just get a push off to win the game, right? So it's going to come down to one fight in 1 minute and 40 seconds to which team will take the massive momentum shift into really being ahead.
I like the way you speak. I'm sorry, I was at that point just kind of thinking that if we get that soul over to TT, do we have to start talking about different dynamics? Does TT then suddenly feel a lot better with the Lucian, who has kind of pushed ahead at this point, his 2-0. The Corki, who can play at range with the build you outlined. It does feel like the soul changes the dynamic of this comp just a little bit, that, you know, the front line of RA will get blown up a little bit quicker than we expected.
Yeah, definitely true. And the thing is, the good thing about RA's comp is when you have Azir Tristana, I still think they do outpace even the likes of an Infernal Soul.
Wow,
but we're not really close to that point in the game, right? We're talking about 4 items, we're talking about 5 items. We are not there yet. We might not even get there. We're still at the point where Sam D is putting out a tremendous amount of damage. If he can get onto either FoFo or iBoy, I mean, one Lucian combo could pretty much burst them out. The problem that we've had is that it should be very difficult for them to get on FoFo and iBoy, as we saw earlier in the game. So a lot of it's going to be execution based, but I still think RA's comp has the tools to come out ahead. For TT, just going to be about execution. Can they find a way onto either of these big carries, or can they catch someone off in transition with their side lane prio?
Good package timing right before the Infernal Soul. That's great for TT. Twila's using it to get mid control, and his poke hurts like an absolute and immortal shield bow. As you can see, Hung's already at half. He's poking down, and TT may have just given themselves enough space to start this dragon.
And this is what we hit on earlier as well, right? If TT can get into river first, they actually are in a pretty good position when it comes to these dragons. And RA is just going to give it up. RA realizing they can't fight, Hung is too low, and maybe also realizing, hey, we do have Azir, we do have Tristana, we do have a way to hold on even with giving up this Drake. But like you said, the burst damage is there now for TT. Even the likes of Hung can just be gone.
And Baron wasn't up for another 15 seconds after the soul went down. Now that it's there, RA moving into Fog of War. They have vision control, all but that control ward in the back of the pit. I'm trying to look in front of Baron. You can see that an expired ward down, and RA, quick Baron time, baby. They're trying to do this quicker than Boney M with Rasputin. Chelizi goes into the backline at 3k. There's no time to talk, Lyric. It's taken down. And now they have to get the hell out of there because RA have already lost their jungler. Cube over the back wall. Xiaopeng is running to bear slap down iBoy. He's rocket jumped out of there. The buster shot used to disengage, but against the wall. Chelizi may have just ended this game in a hurry. iBoy left without a team. The flashes go forward, and Sammy D will take down the final element. With Cube surviving after GA, even with Baron, he's in a world of hurt.
Beautiful ultimate coming out from Chelizi, 3-man stun. Gets on those crucial members that we were talking about. Can you get on Azir? Can you get on the Tristana? They do. Leyan was already taken down because guess what? That Baron wasn't the same as TT's because TT was right in front of you the whole time.
Running through mid, I mean, this was RA's game with a better comp we talked about, but Infernal Soul over. TT taking the palm of their hands. Cube trying to show us what Season 11's all about, but he won't be able to save the day. Both Nexus turrets laid bare onto the ground with the Nexus there right in front of us. It's all going downhill, right down into the Game 1, winning for TT.
And it's always exciting to see TT win. Again, this is an upstart team that's been putting up fights against a lot of our teams recently. And despite the fact that we didn't necessarily see SamD and Teeen really dominate in the laning phase, the one thing that TT did really well was that they were playing around the prio they were getting from the Lucian really well, right? We saw consistently that SamD and Teeen were roaming towards the mid lane. When we got to the point where we were at the 1-3-1 stage, they were pushing out mid, trying to go into the enemy jungle for vision. So I really liked that aspect of what TT did this game.
I think it just shows us that, you know, at the end of the day, execution, this is a bit of a meme, execution outbeats comp a lot of the times as well. And, you know, the decision-making coming through from TT towards that mid-game was just so strong. The resolve good. And I want to put a bit of a highlight on junglers once again, because it does feel like that in the early game, we saw Xiaopeng just focus on clearing. He picked up a lot of the objectives thanks to his top and mid lane. But it was also just, you know, Xiaopeng showing us why we hyped this guy up a little bit. He had firm control through most of the game. Even falling down a couple of levels, he was still there, and he was still playing his role as the best stun-bot.
Xiaopeng definitely did good, but it's like you highlighted. It felt like it was a bit of a result of the draft early on. You have a winning top lane matchup, you have a winning bot lane matchup, they're always able to cover for you. A real story that is also can be told is Twila, because Twila was getting really punished in that mid lane. Azir does get prio early on, but FoFo was just outplaying him. We saw him force out the flash very early on without wasting his own. FoFo was up something like 40 CS, but Twila came back, he got up to his item breakpoints, and you highlighted it with the way he was using his packages. He was playing with his items well, weaving in the autos between the rockets, and ended up doing the most damage on TT by far. Hung and Leyan were always shrunk to half HP by any time a fight started.
That's why it's really nice to have you here, Lyric, because, you know, I always test you and I always ask you about more information about the builds, and today you gave me a really nice cap on what Twila was doing with the build, and how it worked out in team fights was not how we expected, at the very least not was how I expected. And TT using a composition that, you know, against the disengage, against the range advantage from RA, worked out better than expected overall. Now, RA did walk into them.
Speaking of range advantage,
yeah,
I feel like we just got ignored the fact that iBoy did less damage than his Aatrox and his Olaf.
That's what I was trying to do, brother. That's what I was trying to do. iBoy got beaten out of the fights a lot of the time. I think he was pretty scared running into SamD on Lucian, or at least running into the Corki as well. And
a lot of the times, right, Hung tried to set up the play, and then he would just eat the full culling, would eat like a couple rockets. Gnar would just be turning mega, and Hung was taking out of fights very early on as well. Even the way they were playing around their Gnar bar was pretty well, and I also think one of the mistakes by RA, it didn't feel like RA were playing around it well themselves. There are also numerous times in the early game where like, hey, RA has TP advantage. I actually don't think it means too much if RA loses maybe a wave top here or a plate, but they just kept missing chances.
Didn't use the TP advantage, didn't find that solo kill topside as well, Lyric. Like, there was a lot to talk about how RA could have played this game better. To take away from being critical, to look at a win for TT once again. You know, just like TT Clement, you referenced the K-pop band a bit before. I won't do that anymore, but that was a pretty cute game one. Folks, we're going to go to a little bit of a break. When we return,